In this lesson, we'll get started with our landing page project. So as you can see, we've got that landing page in here, and something quite special about it is that this landing page is responsive. Now, what does that mean? It means that the content can adapt to different screen sizes. For example, we've got here the desktop screen size, but what if I was in a much smaller screen? How would this look like? We can easily test that by reducing the size of our browser. And as we shrink that window, we can see that the content adapts to a smaller resolution. So if you were on a phone, you would see the page in this manner. The best way to understand responsive design is to think of content as if it was a liquid. So that content needs to be adjusting to your different screen sizes, whether it's a smart TV, a desktop computer, a tablet, a phone, or who knows what other device that you might have around. What we'll do in this particular lesson in regards to coding is to work on the main elements of on the HTML side of things of this page. The approach that we'll be taking is a mobile first approach, which means that you actually create the mobile page first, and then later on, using something called media queries, we'll be able to also create the desktop version just by adding some extra CSS with a few more rules. So for now, we're just gonna focus on the mobile version. Both the mobile and the desktop version, they share the same CSS code. There are just some conditions that only apply to certain screen sizes. So the very first area, this menu area, is going to be its own div container. Then we're going to have a div container, which we'll call wrapper, for everything else. This image area will also be a div container, and that div container is going to have a background image. We have also inside of that container another container that we'll use for this title. We'll have a container for this intro text, and then containers for each one of these services elements or portfolio elements, if you want. So let's get started and create some basic structure that we can then style in further lessons. I've got pretty much a blank HTML page. It only includes a CSS file, and that CSS file is completely empty. As I said, in this lesson, we'll just be doing HTML aspects. So that very first part, as I mentioned, is a div. And we're gonna give this div the class nav so that we can style it later. Now I'm gonna be typing a lot, and closing my tag each time can be a bit tiresome. So I'm gonna activate an extension on the Atom editor, which allows me to auto close the tags. Some other editors come with this functionality, but in our case, in this particular case, you have to install it. So if you want to do that, you have to go to Edit Preferences and then Install and search for Auto Close HTML. That will give you the the package. I think it's with a dash in here. Let's just try. Yeah, there it is. Autoclose HTML. I already have that installed. So all I need to do is activate it. So I'm gonna go here and enable. And now, I think now I should be able to autoclose this, or I might have to restart the editor. No, there you go. So now it's just much easier to type all the stuff. Okay, so the top area is to begin with a container, and then we're gonna use an unordered list to represent the individual items. So I'm gonna create an unordered list, and inside of that unordered list, I'm gonna create some list elements. And by pressing Ctrl Shift D, I can actually duplicate this. So we can get all 4 elements. One is gonna say home. You can also just use copy paste. Home, services, support, contact. By the way, this is what our page will look like. Very different to this, but we'll get there, don't worry. So that's the first area. Then I said that we needed another container for the image area. So we are going to have a div, actually a container for everything else, for the whole content area, which we're going to call wrapper. And the first container inside of wrapper is going to be the one for the image area. So, oops, div class. The class here will be image area. These are all arbitrary names. You can call things however you want. And inside of that, we will have the image text, which is for this one here. All right. Also inside of wrapper, we need that intro text container. So that's a div class intro text. And we need we'll have one for the services area or portfolio. I'm gonna call it services. It could be like a company page, something like that. So we're gonna call this services. And inside of that, we'll have one for each individual service. So we'll call this single service. And inside of that single service, we're actually going to add an image. The source of that image is going to be, you'll find it on the downloadable files. There will be a folder called images, and then this one's called zenva_banner.png. So this is self-closing tag. Remember, it's images. So let's see what we got at this point. Let me just double check that that folder is correct. Zenva banner .png. This needs to be, I just need to copy this to my current folder. All right, there we go. Yep, so we got that image. And at last, just a paragraph here for some text. That text will just say just anything really. Just generic random text in Latin. This was the intro text, so let's put the intro text in there. And there we go. So since we'll have many of these services, let's have 4 of them. I'm going to copy, you can copy and paste or duplicate the line. So we've got 4. And this is the HTML of our page. That's it, there's nothing else. Everything else will be done by CSS. Oh, and this text here, we also want to have that inside of image text. So you can see now all the impact that CSS can have on a page, because the HTML in both cases is exactly the same. So let's now start on the next lesson with the actual styling of this.